What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Friday, a little later today because we were having like a pre-show karaoke session. Hey, it's good. It's a Friday. Vibes are feeling good. Energy's high.
It's
Talking about the Titans.
Friday.
You didn't have to keep that going, but that
Wait,
was
you brought it
pre-show.
up. You
I
brought
did.
it up.
You're right. You're right. I did open that Pandora's box there. So talking this morning about ESPN's grade on the Titans offseason. And it's a favorable grade. It's not a bad grade by any means. But Sam, you think ESPN whiffed on one major aspect and forgot about something that could be pretty important when it comes to what the Titans tried to accomplish this offseason. Jack and I talked yesterday about the Athletic Football Show on their take on the Titans offseason and really where I think Robert Mays and Connor Orr of SI also missed the point. And Sam, you wrote a post on that about on A to Z sports.com yesterday. So this one with a grade. We got a letter grade coming from ESPN's Seth Walder. We'll discuss that. We've got a couple questions for you guys. How do you guys feel about that? Is it going to be too high, too low, or just right? And the biggest thing that ESPN missed, according to Sam. And then we'll talk about what we would consider the biggest move of the Titans offseason to be before we get to our Ain't That Good News on a Friday to wrap up this week. So, Sam, welcome in. Let's get this thing off and rolling.
Hey, let's get into it here before we jump into a very good, very entertaining show. And I got some choice words for some of the people in the national media. So it's going to be a good show today. Stay tuned for some of that later. Before I get into my little rant, make sure you're sharing the show so that everybody else can hear what we got to say this morning. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the share button in the bottom right corner. If you're watching on YouTube, take that YouTube link, send it to a Titans fan. Find that group chat. Find that person in your life that you say, hey, yeah, you're going to want to watch this. You're going to want to see this and make sure you share the show. That's the best way to support A to Z Sports is by growing the A to Z Sports family as we go ahead and kick things off on a Friday, a very good Friday morning here.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, our Titans reporter for A to Z Sports.com. And we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us. And they help out all of you guys like Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon right there. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. And Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. You can do that by using our link to save money on your health coverage rates at fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, Sam, a lot of national words being tossed out there about the Tennessee Titans over the last several weeks because we are approaching list season. If we're not approaching it, we're already there.
Yeah, I think we're in it.
Yeah, we're in it. We're deep into list season, right? Everybody's got a list. We have a list we're working on. I don't know if you know this, Sam, but we're going to have our top 105 players in the NFL come out on A to Z Sports.com.
Why 105? Why 100?
Because it's the 105th year of the NFL.
That's why. That's a good reason. I just,
okay.
had to get some clarification there because that felt a little arbitrary. But no, I like that.
There you go. So that's top 105 is coming out. So we have our own list too. But Sam, you said you're going to have some choice words for some national media members and what they're saying about the Titans offseason. And Jack and I talked about that a lot yesterday with the Athletic Football Show podcast, Robert Mays from The Athletic, and then Connor Orr of SI. You want to dive into those words off the top of the show here?
Yeah, I mean, it really is going off of kind of what you and Jack talked about yesterday, but I really don't think it can be said enough. And it's frustrating to watch kind of people that forget to see the nuance in the moves that the Titans made and in just like NFL off seasons as a whole. And I think, the narrative around the Titans that they are all in on 2024 or this critical idea that people have because the Titans decided to improve this offseason as a team is kind of ridiculous to me. Like, number one, why are we bashing teams for wanting to get better? Why are we bashing teams for saying, hey, we had a bad roster and we're making actual efforts to fix the problems and fix the holes and be more competitive. I think every sports league would be better off if teams took that approach and said, here's the problems. We have the money to do it. So why are we not doing it? And we're going to try and solve the issue. So that's number one. Like, especially in a league like the NFL, where contracts are not guaranteed, where, as we all know, like the famous phrase, the cap is fake. There are ways to manipulate the salary cap to help you as an organization get out of bad contracts. And the Titans might have bought a lot of players, but those players are not necessarily tied to the terms of their deal. So I think it was a good thing for them to do. And then number two is just failing to see the national trend and the league-wide trend that exists in how to have success as an organization. And I think if you recognize what that trend is, you understand what the Titans are doing. And that is put your quarterback in a position to succeed so that you don't have a good young quarterback on an island by himself. You want to take advantage of a rookie contract and make sure you know as quickly as possible what you have under center. The Titans' efforts this offseason were not to be a Super Bowl favorite, were not to be the winner of the AFC South. If you can do some of those things and you make the playoffs and you win a playoff game along the way, that's great. But this offseason for the Titans was about bringing in a new head coach in Brian Callahan, who brings a new culture and a new offense with him, and then supplementing your roster with veteran pieces and talent to give Will Levis a shot. Anybody who watched the Titans last year knew that Will Levis never had a shot behind that offensive line, knew that outside of DeAndre Hopkins, he really didn't have anybody to throw to. And we looked at a banged up defense, a one-dimensional running game, and a defensive-minded head coach in Mike Vrabel, and could look and say, this is not ideal for any young quarterback. But this guy has 4 years of control before he's a free agent. One of them's gone. You really have 2 more seasons before you have to pay him. And you got to know, is this the guy? It is the single most important question in all of professional sports. When you look at a quarterback and say, is this the guy? It has the most financial repercussions. It has the most on-field repercussions of any position. This is the mecca when it comes to being an organization and navigating things. And so Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, Amy Adams-Strunk, and the Titans made a big, risky, aggressive offseason move and a series of big offseason moves to get an answer to that question, which just so happens to also align with improving their roster as a whole, and it could result in winning more games. I think if you're a Titans fan, that is a good thing regardless, because if Will Levis is great, you're going to know, and you're going to have a great season in 2024. And if Will Levis falls on his face and is not the guy, your moves might look bad in the short term, but now you know, and whoever is the guy after Will Levis is coming into a much more comfortable situation with an established younger offensive line and an offensive head coach, and has a chance to succeed. So that is my rant right now, because I ESPN, the Athletic Football Show, whatever national media it is, it feels like we put teams in this box of, contender, pretender. And if you're a pretender, why are you even bothering trying to win football games? And if you're a contender, why are you not going all in at all times? And we forget that the teams that have won in recent history in the NFL are teams that have brought in young quarterbacks, capitalized on a rookie contract, and got a young guy with veterans around them to make the transition as easy as possible. So that is the goal of the Titans offseason. And if they go 8-9 or 9-8 this season and they don't win the division or a playoff game, it doesn't mean that their offseason was a failure, because their offseason, if it produces answers more than results, it's a success.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. And I said this yesterday, and we clipped it on social media. I think people kind of didn't take the full big picture of it, but the Titans have set themselves up to have two windows. They have the window of cheap Will Levis, where he's making $9 million over the first 4 years of his NFL career. And they have the perfect clean break of big contracts that all expired at the end of last year that they moved on from, right? Including Kevin Byard, who was an expiring contract, but you trade the guy, Henry Tannehill. So you have so much money to spend. So you go out there and you sign expensive free agents to build around the cheap quarterback, and you have that window. And then the second window is those contracts will expire pretty simultaneous to Will Levis potentially earning an expensive contract. And then you have an expensive quarterback contract that you have to build around in the draft. So you have to draft well this year, next year, and the year after that. The next 3 drafts, including the J.C. Latham draft, have to be good. And here's the good thing about what the Titans did with their 2 windows. They have a pivot point. You go out in the first window, and then you have an A and a B, or a left road and a right road at that fork. You have the Will Levis is good and deserves a contract road, or we find out that Will Levis isn't good, and you have the other road. And the other road is drafting another quarterback in 2026 or so, if that's not the answer. And then, again, the contracts expire that you just signed. You have a fresh rookie quarterback contract, and you rinse and repeat to try to find out the answer if the second quarterback is the guy. So that is where I think the Titans have crushed it with this offseason, because they've created 2 windows, and you've got a fork at the second window to decide, do I want to go left with Levis or right with a new one after finding out the answer?
Yeah, I mean, we look at kind of all the criticism that surrounded the offseason. It just doesn't make a ton of sense. And it's really because of people are critical of stuff like the Calvin Ridley contract, or even the Chidobe Awuzie contract, and saying that it's an overpay for aging players. But really what the Titans have done is, again, added players to key positions to make their roster more competitive in critical areas, while simultaneously being intentional about getting younger and cheaper and more controlled on the offensive line, which has been their Achilles heel for 2 seasons now. So are their wide receivers old in DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd? Yeah, it's an old receiving core, but you can always use a first-round pick on a wide receiver and bring that guy in, especially if you don't have such a need to fill a left tackle or a right tackle or whatever it is. And, Will Levis comes in to a roster that is in chaos in the trenches and doesn't even know who's starting on the offensive line. The year before, Ryan Tannehill is hurt constantly because his offensive line can't protect him. And now you're looking at Will Levis potentially having J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronski, Lloyd Cushenberry under contract, by the way, at least 4 seasons of all 3 of those guys being locked up. And that, to me, is the goal of what the Titans have done. They've tried to diagnose little key points on their roster that they want to streamline and get younger, get cheaper, get better at. And they've done that. So now if Will Levis stinks this year and the Titans are bad, you draft a quarterback, and that quarterback still has 3 years of potentially very good offensive line play in front of him. It's the right approach, and it cannot be quantified in, well, I think you slightly overpaid for Calvin Ridley, because guess what? Calvin Ridley's already the 13th highest paid receiver in the league based on 14th. The way the market, 14th, and 2 years from now, he'll be the 25th. And
he was the 9th 3 months ago, the 9th highest paid, and then now he's the 14th.
And so this is how the market goes. To get a 1,000-yard receiver, you have to pay. And I think the impact Calvin Ridley has for Will Levis and for any young quarterback to just have another guy will be worth overpaying the rest of the market. And while I'm going, the Titans, it's not like they're out of money. It's not like they spent every last dollar in the piggy bank here. I mean, right now they are still right league average in projected 2025 cap space. I did a quick little exercise yesterday, made 2 or 3 cuts to some of the players with the most expiring expiring money, dead money on the contract, you can get him up to $50 million in cap space with just 3 or 4 moves in next offseason. Like, this team is not handcuffed by the Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed contract whatsoever. They've just added good players. And like you said, 2-3 years from now, there's more flexibility with all of these contracts. It's a cycle.
Yeah, and on top of all that, they still have money in the piggy bank, yet they also lead the NFL in dead money this year too, which is crazy.
Good.
Yeah,
Not good to have dead money, but when you already have like, you like dead money because that means that money's coming available soon.
Exactly. Bork kind of gives us a big synopsis. Is they have the money to pay Levis in 2026 or to sign a bunch of dudes like this offseason to help the next guy. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. All right, Sam, let's show up here the ESPN offseason grade from Seth Walder. Now, we'll go through this and we'll ask you guys this question here in a second about how you feel about the grade. But Sam, Seth Walder of ESPN gives the Titans an overall B grade. He got his biggest move, trading for L'Jarius Sneed, move that Walder liked, signing Lloyd Cushenberry, move that Walder disliked, failing to trade down in the second round. There's a lot of other analysis to dive into about that, but we want to ask you guys right now off the top to get you guys involved. I've been peeking at the comments. You guys have had a lot of really good comments agreeing and liking Sam's rant. It was unacceptable the last couple of years of how the Titans have finished, but here's this question. How do you feel about ESPN grading the Titans offseason as a B? Is that too high of a grade, too low, or just right? How do you feel about ESPN grading the Titans offseason as a B? Too high, too low, just right? What's the porridge for you guys on this Friday? But first, let me tell you guys all about Holiday World and Splash and Safari, where every day is a holiday in Santa Claus, Indiana, of course. That's exactly where Holiday World is located. Just a couple hours north of us here in Nashville. It's a great place for a weekend trip with you and your family. It's hot, hot, hot outside. So go take a couple hours north of a trip to Santa Claus, Indiana for Holiday World because they have the best coasters in the area, 40 coasters in the area. And they also have a water park that has the first launched water coaster. So you want to cool off in the summer heat. That's where you hit up Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Great value, great deals, free sunscreen, free soft drinks, and free parking. Get your tickets today at holidayworld.com.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM. BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. That's a second chance to win big and limited risk with the king of sportsbooks, BetMGM, with the bonus code ATOZ Sports.
All right, Sam. So Seth Walder of ESPN grades the Titans offseason as a B. Just to reset, biggest move, Snead trade. Move he liked the most, Cushenberry. Move he disliked the most, failing to trade down in the second round and ultimately taking T'Vondre Sweat, your boy, Sam, who we have not seen in over a month with our own media eyes.
He's waiting for
me. Taking Sweat at 38 overall. So, Sam, I'll let you go to the chat here. We need more likes on the show, by the way. Hit that like button, too, if you can, on Facebook and on YouTube. How do you feel about ESPN's grading the Titans offseason with a B? Is that too high, too low, or just right? What are the people saying this morning?
All right, we got B is cool from Darren right away. Just right, I suppose. Too high, says Luman. Jake Locker's burner says B is fair. Just right. Agree with the dislike, says Steven. He would have liked to see a trade back in the second round as well. We've got it right, just right from Katie. Mario thinks it's just right. B is not too bad, says Raz. Just right. It's fair. Pistol Ram says, from the national media, that's just right, finally. Just about right. Just right, says Willie and Titans Kyle. Too high, says Jason Martinez, because the team is unproven. Brandon believes it's too low because the good outweighs the bad when it comes to this offseason. I think that's an interesting point from Brandon there. Christian says low. It's an A minus. Too low, says tighten up. Just right, says Mitch. Jonathan says there's always room for improvement. He thinks this is just right. Maserati Mac is with him. So is Danny. Billy Jones thinks it's just slightly low. Denise says just right because of a lot of unknowns still. Hope for the best. We can regrade it mid-season. Joey thinks it's just right. Jared thinks it's a little low. Kaz says it's just right. So chat overall happy with Seth Walder and ESPN here and the B. And I mean, we did mark it as a favorable grade here, Austin.
Yeah.
And before I get your answer, I do want to give him his flowers a little bit here.
Okay.
And because Seth Walder, my favorite part of all of this is this first paragraph below the likes and dislikes, where he admits he is a Will Levis skeptic, of which there are many, but says the Titans did the right thing by strengthening their roster this offseason. In the event that he breaks out, there's no time to waste. You have to take advantage of the rookie quarterback window.
Yeah.
Here is a guy that gets it. And
hallelujah.
This is like a round of applause to Seth Walder for getting this point, because this is, again, somebody who can see the nuance and say, I don't like Will Levis. I don't believe he's going to be a great franchise quarterback, but it makes sense for them to find out and take advantage in case he is this offseason. So I do want to shout that out, because I think that is a really, really good point that not a lot of people seem to be pointing out. So shout out to Seth Walder for getting it. And I want to show a little bit of love to him too for the move I liked, being Lloyd Cushenberry. I think that's, as the kids would say, this guy knows ball a little bit. Like, it's easy to point at Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius, like big flashy moves.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of Titans fans feel this way, that the value they got in Lloyd Cushenberry and the importance of that position for this offensive line moving forward, like a really, really strong move by the Titans front office. So those two reasons, regardless of how we feel about the grade or some of the other notes and things that I will disagree with here.
Sure.
Shout out to Seth Walder for getting those right.
So, all right. So the question we're asking everybody here is a B grade for Seth Walder too high, too low, or just right? And Lucas says, Sam, you're still a kid, because you're like, as the kids.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I would say this guy knows ball, but not everybody might say that. So
as the fellow kids say, Steve.
Yes, exactly.
So all right. I'm going to answer the question by comparing the other grades that Seth Walder gave out. Because, Sam, you wrote this at A2Zsports.com. There are 16 teams in the NFL who have a B grade or higher. There's a lot of teams that are right there in the B area with the Titans, and it's hard to know how they rank among those, because Seth Walder did the alphabetical thing of like, everybody that had a B is right here. I'm going to list them in alphabetical order to not get too much nuance in there. But did the Tennessee Titans have a better or worse offseason than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because they were also getting a B. They re-signed Antoine Winfield. They re-signed Mike Evans. The move he disliked was re-signing Baker Mayfield for $40 million guaranteed. So I think the Titans had a better offseason than Tampa. Now, Tampa won a playoff game last year, so there was less ground to cover. But the moves that they made were obvious. Like, re-sign your damn good safety. Re-sign your future Hall of Fame wide receiver and don't let him go, because you had to re-sign your bridge quarterback in Baker Mayfield, and you need your Hall of Fame receiver to go along with the bridge quarterback, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I would agree with you, and I think that is kind of important here, and this is a hole that you can poke for sure in Walder's thinking, is if the move that you disliked, if the big problem was you didn't trade back in the second round to recuperate more draft picks, if that's the problem of the offseason, you knocked it out of the damn park.
Yes.
I mean, like if that is the issue, if you say they did good to spend money around Will Levis, they should have gone for it. They added all of these players and some of their subtle moves like Lloyd Cushenberry. I love the compliment that it is for their roster. We'll get into what I think Walder is missing later on in the show, which I think is another factor. But if your big issue is, I would have liked to see you get T'Vondre Sweat at 55 instead of, where you took him. How is that a B? That's where I start to say, maybe you're a little bit low in your grade here.
Right. So, all right, then there's other teams that are graded a B alongside the Titans. So we both think the Titans had a better offseason than the Bucs, who had a B. But the Seahawks, the Niners, the Steelers, Bengals, and Ravens all had Bs. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because for the Bengals and the Niners, a lot of the biggest moves that I liked were not doing anything. The Niners, biggest move, not trading any of your wide receivers. Move I liked, not trading wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, which you just said was the biggest move. That's the same damn thing. And the Bengals, biggest move, not trading T. Higgins or Trey Hendrickson. Okay, that's like, and then move I disliked for the Bengals, losing Chidobe Awuzie in free agency, which is what the Titans added, right?
Yeah.
So I think automatically,
And
by
it's
default,
not the move he liked for the Titans, ironically.
Yes, but it lands in the move you dislike for another team. So by default, the Titans have a better offseason than both the Bengals and the Niners because they basically didn't do anything. The Bengals did not do anything more than just franchise tag T. Higgins and not trade a player. And then the Niners just didn't trade a player, but also didn't extend a player either. So they didn't do anything. And so that's a better grade for the Titans. Then the Seahawks also have a B. Biggest move, hiring Mike McDonald as the head coach. Oh, okay. Now we're involving head coaching hires and coaching hires in the equation. So automatically the Titans have a better offseason than the Seahawks because I like the Mike McDonald hire, but I also like Brian Callahan. Move I like for the Seahawks, sticking with Geno Smith. Again, not doing anything. He was under contract. Move he disliked was re-signing Leonard Williams with $21 million. So again, Titans better than the Seahawks. The only other team that's left, two teams that are left that also had a B, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. And look, I think the Steelers you can argue with is signing Russell Wilson and trading for Justin Fields could take the Steelers, who were a playoff team a year ago. Now they could be even more elevated. So I get where the Steelers are at there. And the Baltimore Ravens, biggest move, re-signing Justin Madubuike, and move I liked, signing Derrick Henry for only $9 million guaranteed. So I think I could get on board with the Ravens and the Steelers having the same grade as the Titans.
The logic at least makes sense there.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I can get on board with that. So my official answer to our question is the Titans grade of a B too high, too low, or just right? It is too low. It is too low. It needs to be at least a B plus because of what I just said, because there's plenty of teams to separate. You don't get good grades for not doing anything, for keeping the status quo. That is easy. That is the easy thing to do. So that's how I answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the surface, if you came to me and said, Sam, grade the Titans offseason, what is it? I would probably give you an A minus or a B.
I'm sorry. Pistol Ramsey nailed it. The Ravens also lost a lot. Oh, and they also lost their defensive coordinator in
true. And he mentioned that in his.
So guess what? The Titans have a better offseason than the Ravens. So there you go.
Maybe. We'll see.
No, I think so. I absolutely think so. Because if you lose your D coordinator, you also lost your secondary coach, who's Denard Wilson, as a D coordinator for the Titans. So, and you also lost Geno Stone, lost Patrick Queen. There's other guys in there that I can't, off the top of my head. But yeah, I think Pistol, you're right. So there you go. Titans and Steelers are what I can get on board with as the better group of the Bs. So still too low overall.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, if you would have said, Sam, grade the Titans offseason, I'd probably say A minus, B plus, and if you said, I've got him at a B, I would say, that's fair. I don't really have any problems with that. And that is my thought overall on the B grade. Until, as Christopher says, you really put some of these grades into focus and you look at it and you say, why is this a B? You brought up one concern, which is a minor concern that may or may not actually have existed. Yeah. He brings up this idea of, see if I can throw it up real quick.
Yeah.
Biggest gripe about the Titans offseason. My biggest gripe of the entire offseason is that they didn't trade down in the draft. They stood pat at number 7 to take J.C. Latham, but you must wonder, if they could have worked out a deal to move down with the QB needy teams such as the Vikings, Broncos, or Raiders. And more egregiously, they took Tavondre Sweat in round 2 at pick 38, one spot before the Rams gave up a 5th-round pick and a 2025 second-round pick to move from 52 to 39. That deal was likely also available to Tennessee. Number one, we do not know if the LA Rams moving up in the second round of the draft was impacted by the Tennessee Titans taking Tavondre Sweat because they traded up for Braden Fiske. Fiske, I don't know how to say it.
Yes, the E is
Braden
silent.
Fiske. They trade up for Braden Fiske, who plays the same position as Tavondre Sweat. Maybe they knew they wanted to get one of the defensive tackles, and when one of them comes off the board, they realize, hey, we got to make a move here to make sure we go get one of our guys. You don't know. But Rand Carthon said he got calls from general managers saying, man, he wouldn't have been there. He would not have been there had, you traded back. Mm-hmm. So this is, I don't know, it's picking at straws here, grasping at straws a little bit to make this the big thing. According to Buck, the Rams made that offer to the Titans. So maybe you do criticize them for that move, but
you could also the Rams could have offered that trade to the Titans, and Rand Carthon could have gotten calls from GM saying that Sweat wouldn't have been back there if you move back. So both can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been bouncing back 2 spots, so it probably would have, or whatever, 1 spot, so it probably would have worked. But either way, this is your biggest problem of the offseason. That is such a minute detail. You're not taking exception to any of the actual moves that they made. You're basically saying, I wish they would have made this move and just made it slightly better. So that is, in general, reason to give them a very, very high grade for the offseason. Then all of the nuances that you mentioned. And the biggest thing for the Titans to me, compared to some of these other teams, these moves were obvious. Like you said, not trading Brandon Ayuk, good idea. Not trading T. Higgins, good idea. Re-sign Mike Evans. Hey, good work, Bucks. If that's the standard, what makes this Titans offseason so impressive is they did what they had to do to support Will Levis, and they put themselves in a position to improve as a team and be better in the future because of what they did. And nobody saw it coming. Nobody thought the Titans were in on a Calvin Ridley. The idea of a L'Jarius Sneed trade, we talked about it on this show, and it was like, yeah, that would be nice, but I just don't see how they get this done. And to go and get, before the offseason, Chidobe Awuzie was one of my favorite targets for them. They go and get that guy. Then they add Sneed. Then they add Ridley. They convert on the number 1 center at a position of need. They draft a franchise left tackle. Like, they did everything that nobody thought they would or could do in one offseason. And you're talking about these moves, and you're not mad at any of these moves. And they're surprising, and they're shocking, and they're huge. How is that a B?
He's mad. Like, his biggest gripe is not getting more future draft capital that is completely unknown, right? And so I think, look, I'm not done. I've continued to look at his grades for other teams and his biggest moves I like, move I dislike. And I think the Titans have an opportunity to even climb higher than what I've already said. I'm going to go back into that.
Answering the question, putting a ribbon on it real quick.
Yes.
The grade of B is fine. But in the context of, you're grading on a curve here. Like, I'm a student that gets my paper back and sees B, and then I'm happy. And then you kind of look around the room and you realize the teacher was kind of grading on a curve for some of these other students, and they weren't getting penalized for some things that they should get penalized for. They got bonus points on questions for just filling out the right answer. And then you realize everybody else got a B, or I wrote the best paper in the class, perhaps, is a better example. And I turned it in and I got it back and I got my grade and I'm proud of the grade. And then I realized you were grading for completion, and everybody else who just wrote like a garbage paper got the same grade as me. And I look around and say, well, why did I work so hard? And it makes you feel like that grade, while fine, is just a little bit too low compared to your peers. So bump it up.
Love it. Love it. All right. So you've got what ESPN missed, what Seth Walder missed, and I'm going to keep going in on the conflicting grades that don't make any sense of why some teams got higher grades than the Titans and did less just like Sam mentioned. But first, Sam, if you could, tell us all about our great friends at the Bone and Joint Institute.
The Bone and Joint Institute, they're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Don't fumble on your recovery. You have to know who to trust whenever you get hurt in life. I'm telling you, you can trust our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, located in Franklin with a state-of-the-art rehab facility located right off the highway, easy access in and out, not dealing with all that traffic once you get off the highway. So Bone and Joint Institute, clinic, rehab, imaging, surgery, testing, all in one location. So it's a one-stop shop for you. Don't fumble on your recovery. Schedule your appointment with them at boneandjointtn.org.
And it is BetMGM time. It's also the final series of the men's baseball title coming up this weekend. And you can win big with our friends at BetMGM using our bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. That's when you sign up with the BetMGM app for the first time using our bonus code again, ATOZ Sports. So go big on that first bet, because if you miss it out, you get all that money up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. And you can do that with BetMGM. Make sure that you go to betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only, new customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligible requirements. First online, real money wager only. Rewards issued in non-eligible bonus bets that expire in 7 days. And for problem gamblers report, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. So Sam, I'm going to toss it to you because I want you to go through. I've talked enough. I feel like we're trading rants. You had the rant to open. I had the rant about the grades, and now I'll let you rant about what ESPN missed, and I'll come back and rant more about the grades. So, Sam, what was the biggest thing that ESPN Seth Waller missed when grading the Titans offseason?
Well, you touched on it earlier, and I'm shocked it wasn't mentioned. Nowhere in the column was perhaps the biggest thing the Titans did all offseason mentioned, and that's hire a new head coach. That is fire Mike Vrabel, bring in Brian Callahan, and then bring in a staff around Brian Callahan that you believe is going to change the trajectory of your franchise.
Yeah.
Like, you have an offensive-minded head coach, and if you are somebody who believes in Brian Callahan, like I think a lot of the NFL world is, like I've just heard rave reviews about this guy and his trajectory as an NFL coach. Like, it can't be understated that you now have an offensive-minded head coach for your young quarterback in Tennessee, that you brought in maybe the best offensive line coach in the game in Bill Callahan, who can shift the narrative around one of the problems that has plagued your organization over the last few seasons, which is just pass protection and offensive line and how you assess and train your offensive linemen. You have Denard Wilson as your defensive coordinator, who has been rumored for a defensive coordinator job for a couple of years now, and one of the hottest young names with Baltimore, with Philly, has had really, really successful secondaries that made him a shoo-in for a defensive coordinator job, and he had other offers to be a defensive coordinator. He chose the job in Tennessee. So I'm surprised that if we're sitting here gassing up Seattle for the Mike McDonald hire, why are we not acknowledging the fact that the culture of the Tennessee Titans has changed? The way that the Tennessee Titans approach football has changed, and the Brian Callahan era has begun. I think that maybe more so than anything else this offseason could be the biggest thing you remember about 2024, as this is the year the Titans started the Brian Callahan era. So I think that slipped through the cracks, and I don't necessarily blame ESPN for this one because, look, it was a busy offseason. There was a lot that happened. You look at the Titans, you look at all of these moves that they made and all of these draft picks and all of this controversy, and you forget that they too made a big splash in the coaching carousel that I think needs to be mentioned as well, because if you have the right coach, it's going to make everything else look that much better.
Yeah, somebody asked, I'm trying to go find it again, about the other grade. John, who got A's? Because I bet it's based on biased garbage. So I scroll to the top of Seth Waller, the highest grade, the A grade, and there are one A grade from Walder, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles, who extended A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, swapping edge rusher Hassan Reddick for edge rusher Bryce Huff and getting a third-round pick. The movie Dislike was signing Saquon Barkley for $26 million guaranteed. But I do think Saquon Barkley is an upgrade over DeAndre Swift in that offense. And the other thing about
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing about the Eagles is that they had a lot of coaching staff issues on offensive and defensive coordinators. So what they did is they hired Kellen Moore as the OC and hired Vic Fangio as the DC. Those are big upgrades. The roster in Philadelphia is very, very good. And the coaching staff looked like the problem there last year. So that's the only A grade. Here's the other thing. The A- grade is the Kansas City Chiefs. Biggest move was trading Snead to the Titans. I mean, yeah, I would agree. That's the biggest move they made. But he also said move I disliked, the rolling guarantee in Chris Jones's contract. I would say the biggest move for the Chiefs was re-signing Chris Jones, but move he liked is Marquise Brown. I also don't think you can grade the Chiefs an A- because of all the off-the-field nonsense that they've had to answer questions about over the last 2+ months regarding Harrison Butker. And obviously Harrison Butker might have his job up for grabs based on some things that might be changing in Kansas City because he's a highly paid kicker, and also what Rashee Rice is doing on highways in Dallas and everything there. So
it's also to me, like, again, it has to be relative. Like, if your best move is Hollywood Brown, you're not an A- offseason.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, you're not. And it's the same way with the Titans. It's like, if your worst move is like something subtle in the draft and you didn't make a ton of mistakes, that's a good offseason. But if your best move is we got Hollywood Brown in our offense, I don't see how that's an A-.
Yeah, and another A- team, the LA Chargers. Biggest move, hiring Jim Harbaugh. Move I liked, hiring Jim Harbaugh. Move I disliked, not adding a higher quality veteran receiver because they moved on from both of their guys.
They traded Keenan Allen. They let Mike Williams.
They released
walk.
Mike Williams.
Yeah, they let him walk. And you brought in Jim Harbaugh, and you didn't add really anything to your receiving core in free agency.
Another A- that makes absolutely no sense. The Miami Dolphins, biggest move, losing Christian Wilkins and guard Robert Hunt in free agency. Move I liked, signing cornerback Kendall Fuller. What? Move I disliked, signing Jordan Brooks. So you're going to give that an A-, makes no sense. The New England Patriots also have an A-. Biggest move, drafting Drake May. Move I liked, signing Jacoby Brissett. Move I disliked, not signing a guard. So, like, I think the Patriots, they just gave Ramondre Stevenson $36 million in an extension yesterday. I get that was after Walder's grades, but what have the Patriots done to get an A- besides making the correct decision to move on from Belichick?
They didn't mess up the 3rd overall pick. You don't think?
They didn't have to make a decision. They got the third guy. The Bears took Caleb Williams in a decision. The Commanders decided over Jaden Daniels or Drake May. The Patriots just got Drake May. It wasn't even like they had to make a choice.
Yeah. How many teams in the offseason had a more active offseason than the Titans?
The Panthers,
Chicago.
Yeah, Panthers and the Bears.
The Bears are big plus, but it's close. It's not like, I mean, Bears added a big receiver. Panthers added like a lot. I mean, Panthers, I think, did the most, but pedigree of move for the Panthers, not as big as the move.
The Commanders had a massively busy offseason.
Stephen Jones, Houston, I would say for sure. The Commanders for sure.
I would say Titans, Bears, Panthers, Commanders, Texans. Those 5
most busy off seasons. Yeah, and one of your 5 busiest off seasons that includes some of the highest pedigree moves in terms of names, money spent. I mean, the Titans led the NFL in money spent in free agency. Like we did that show. We made that graphic. And you didn't really have a gripe with any of the moves, and you liked some of the big moves that they made. And yet they're being ranked lower than teams that just said, all right, we're going to draft a quarterback because we don't have one, and we're not going to sign a guard, even though we need one.
Yeah. And like
Make
the
it make
Jets
sense.
had a higher rating. Like I think the Colts deserved a B plus because they were able to extend Michael Pittman Jr. and DeForest Buckner. The Pittman Jr. deal is basically Calvin Ridley's deal. And
Yeah,
I think that's a good deal for them,
it's good.
right?
It's a really good deal. They got great value on that
Yeah.
contract.
The Browns got a B plus as well. They traded for Jerry Jeudy and got him a new contract. Like what he disliked, what Walter disliked from the Browns is they did not trade for Justin Fields. So he thought they should have traded for Justin Fields. The Bears, I think, deserve to have a equal grade as the Titans, if not slightly better, because of how big of a jump Caleb Williams should be from Justin Fields.
They were busy.
And
I mean, similar to the Titans, they got a running back in DeAndre Swift. They traded for Keenan Allen. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze in the first round is a big splash. So, and then coaching changes over there as well.
I'm just gonna list teams that I am okay and fine with having a higher graded offseason than the Titans. I am cool with the Eagles having a higher graded offseason than the Titans because of the coaching situation. I can't get on board with the Chiefs or Chargers. Can't do it. Can't get on board with the Dolphins. Can't get on board with the Patriots. The Bears, yeah, that can be a higher grade. The Browns, equal grade. The Colts, equal grade. The Jets, nope. And then I went through all the other Bs. The Steelers are an equal grade. So what I say, Steelers, Colts, Bears, Eagles, right?
4. I had 4.
So I think the Titans have a top 5 offseason across the NFL. Chef Rain asks, what did the Colts do? I just mentioned it. They re-signed 2 of their best players with a good market value.
Yeah.
They didn't do a ton, but I can get on board with it.
So I think some of like the perception of the Titans offseason, and like I would agree. I think it's a top 5 offseason. I really, really do. The reason why I think it's kind of getting.
And I also, real quick, I also like the Colts draft. So I like AD Mitchell being a second round pick is a good draft.
Yeah. I think the reason that this kind of gets diluted a little bit into like a B might just be like the overall aura of the Titans around the league right now, where it's a lot easier to get excited about the Bears with Caleb Williams and the jump that they're taking because you believe that they might actually be a contender and they have the rookie quarterback. So you see the trajectory. It's easy to get excited about the Eagles because we've seen them compete for a Super Bowl recently, and a good offseason makes you feel like, hey, they could do it again. We saw the Colts be very competitive last year. And like, I just think of those teams ahead of the Titans, if you can go down them again, I'm curious to see how many of those teams finished with a better record than the Titans last year or were in playoff contention.
Well, Eagles playoff team. Then we said
Chiefs. That were just graded higher than the Titans.
Yeah. Eagles, Chiefs, better teams. Playoff, obviously. Chargers were technically a worse team.
Yeah.
Dolphins, better team. Patriots, worse team.
Yep.
Bears, better team. Browns, better. Colts, better. Jets, better slightly.
I'll count them as the same.
Ravens, better. Bengals, better. Steelers, better. Niners, better. Seahawks, better. Bucks. That's it.
So, that's 12 of the teams that are in front of the Titans that were better, and like most of those teams made the playoffs last year. Yeah. The teams that didn't, Chicago, LA, big markets, like massive markets.
New England.
And so New England, right? So it's the teams that were really good last season and then had decent off seasons, and it's easy to get excited about what they did because you're like, ooh, they were already competitive and added a little bit of this. Or big market teams that are in like the forefront of your mind and are marquee teams in what they do and how they operate every offseason. It's like the New York Yankees made a trade is always going to be a headline compared to the Oakland A's making a trade. You know, it's going to get more hype. And the Titans, where they are right now as an organization, and the year that they had last year, kind of falling flat on their face, not establishing themselves as like a real AFC contender right now, and maybe a perception from people that they don't believe in Will Levis or they don't believe in Tennessee this year, kind of dilutes their sense of just how good of an offseason the Titans potentially had. Because if you don't think that this is going to turn into a 10, 11, 12 win season for Tennessee, then it might be easy for you to be like, nah, it's just a B. When in reality, like if you really are in the weeds and understand this roster, you know how much turnover that there was this offseason. You know how much better the team is, and you know how much better of a position it puts the organization in the future. So I think that has a big factor here as well.
Yeah, no doubt. A to Z Sports here live on this Friday. Make sure you hit that like button. Ben, little super chat here, says, listen every day. Rarely see the live. All love the A to Z. So appreciate that, Ben. Thanks for jumping on here live and taking advantage of that opportunity. Glad you're here. All right, so Sam, we do have another miniature question to kind of get to, because I think I'm curious to see if we agree with what Seth Walder said here. But what would you all consider the biggest move of the Titans offseason? What would you all consider as the biggest move of this Titans offseason? But first, Farm Bureau Health Plans. That's where you should turn for all of your health coverage needs. They can help you out and give you a better rate and better coverage. The best of both worlds. They can absolutely do that. They've been doing it for Tennesseans for over 77 years, generation upon generations, and a lot of change over those 77 years in our world. But Farm Bureau Health Plans have stayed consistent and driven to make life better for Tennesseans. So health, dental, vision, everything, just dental, just vision, whatever you need to complement what you might already have, or if you want to switch altogether to save money and get a better deal, you can do that by getting a quote today by using our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. That means if your first wager loses, whatever that wager amount was goes back into your account in the form of a bonus bet for a second chance to win big. That's the best way to do sports betting, is when the risk is limited and you get two shots at it with BetMGM. That's why they're the king of sportsbooks. It's why you got to use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. I believe tonight, Austin, we've got Stanley Cup Finals game 6.
Yep.
Yeah, dragging everybody back to Edmonton. So if you're going to place a bet on it tonight, do it with BetMGM and BetMGM.com.
Tell you what, Edmonton to Hollywood, Florida is a long way.
You know, I do need to go ahead. I haven't done this yet. I'm going to give you your flowers, Austin, or just like give you your congrats, because
what did I do?
Well, the Tennessee Vols.
No, man, we got good news coming up. Don't.
I just want to say that's coming up. You can bet on that on BetMGM too.
Hell yeah!
And I just wanted to say that number one,
we'll get to that. Good news is coming up. Don't spoil my good news. I've been waiting since I was 8 years old for this. All right, so Sam asking the people here on Facebook and YouTube, please like the show as well. What would you consider the biggest move of the Titans offseason? Because as we've said, Seth Walder has the biggest move of trading for L'Jarius Sneed. Biggest doesn't necessarily mean best, right? Like, sure. I think that is the key thing here. So, Sam, what's the chat saying this morning on this?
Man, we are all over the place, but a lot of people showing a little bit of love to Brian Callahan. Chef Francis hiring Callahan. Jervis says the Callahans. Bill Callahan. Bill and Brian Callahan. New coach is the biggest move. Roy says it's fixing the offensive line. Darius and Billy are both on the Callahans as well. Joshua Richards says Calvin Ridley. Lee says the new head coach. Tighten up, says Calvin Ridley. Brian Callahan, Bill Callahan, new head coach. Pistol Ramsey says O-line. The theft of Ridley, says Darren Lee. Curtis C says Denard Wilson, the defense from Giggling Grad Student. What a fun name that is. Christian Smith says the coaching staff, new coach and subsequent staff. Josh says the coaching change. So again, the chat believes that the coaching hire and the coaching staff is the biggest thing they did in the offseason. It's not even mentioned in the grade and the analysis from ESPN.
So, Sam, I'm going to go a step before. The biggest move was firing Mike Vrabel.
Ooh.
The biggest move was making the decision that Mike Vrabel was no longer doing a good enough job for this franchise and was not the right person to lead it in the future. That was the biggest move. Identifying that the Mike Vrabel era needed to end.
That's a pretty good answer, because big to me is you're going bold. You're doing something huge. And I was very critical of firing Mike Vrabel when it first happened. I still am a Mike Vrabel supporter, in the sense that I think he'll be a very good head coach somewhere, and you could miss that opportunity. But the grass may be greener here with Brian Callahan, and it took some guts to make that move when it happened, and it took a lot of unknown and scrutiny. So you had to go big, and I think that's a very good answer. It's a very good answer.
Yeah, thank you. Darius says great ansser, and somebody else says
it's a bigger move to fire Mike Vrabel than it is to hire Brian Callahan.
Yes, and that's because I saw Darren says in the NFL, when you're bad, coaches get fired. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I saw somebody else saying that new coaches firing Vrabel comes hand in hand with that, Austin. No, but my point is identifying that it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel is not a coach that should get fired in a lot of people's eyes. He's a very recent NFL AP Coach of the Year. He had been to 3 straight playoff appearances and winning record and
Yeah, 3 straight playoff appearances and then
missed at 1 point and then missed 2. But he's the type of coach that you give the keys to and give him 10 years to be most franchises probably ride with Mike Vrabel for the next decade. The Titans went against the grain in that sense, and that's a big move. And will it work out? Time will only tell on Brian Callahan. I think they're off to a great start in replacing Mike Vrabel and finding a different way and changing the trajectory of the franchise. But, it got criticized, and it was not as easy as this is a no-name coach who's really sucked for 3 years. This was a big move.
It was a move where Amy Adams Strunk, when making that decision, knows this is not going to be popular, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a big move because it wasn't going to be popular, which means that's how hard of a decision it was going to be. And you have to be able to stand up and make the unpopular decision when you think it's the right move. So that's why I answered that. Carpet and King, no problem on the misunderstanding there. Sam, what was your biggest move, or did I kind of belittle your answer with my answer?
No, I will go with Calvin Ridley. Because to me, Calvin Ridley was the one move of this offseason that my jaw kind of hit the floor, and I said, "The Titans did what? They actually went out and spent $90+ million on a wide receiver. They went and outbid the rest of the market to go and get this guy. And you had DeAndre Hopkins, but this was a big gutsy move of saying, we believe in Calvin Ridley. We believe in what he can bring to this team and the impact that he'll have. We're going to give him more money than people might think that he's worth, but we're going to do it because we can, and we need a player at this position." So to me, I think that is a big, big swing. And I think of any of the players the Titans acquired this offseason, Calvin Ridley has the highest upside to go boom and make every NFL team go, what were we thinking not paying this dude? So that was a shock to me in a way, that they would spend more money on Ridley than anybody thought he was going to get, that they would outbid the Jags, that they would be so aggressive in that approach. That to me, biggest move of the offseason.
Yep. Yeah, totally fair. Totally fair with that. All right, Sam, let's go ahead and wrap up this week. Been a busy week for us. I think it's been a great week. It's been the first true full NFL summer dead period week. But we had a hell of a great topic.
Fun week.
Yeah, it really was. A lot of really good conversation. So let's wrap this up with some Ain't That Good News. If you have good news, share it in the chat so we can share it with everybody. Good news time here on a Friday. Good news means good gravy, which is the brand new roller coaster at Holiday World and Splash Safari, the family coaster for anybody, any age. The good gravy, you can go on with that. A new Thanksgiving themed coaster at Holiday World and Splash Safari just north of Nashville, a couple hours in Santa Claus, Indiana. So break away from the heat and go up there with Holiday World and Splash Safari and get your tickets today at holidayworld.com. So, Sam, good news to share in the chat. We'll see if we'll just start with this good news because Tyler comes in and says, good news. Let's go Aggies. Hot on those balls. So Tyler, my good news is the exact opposite because Sam, I am pumped. This is the first time since I was 8 years old that I've got to see the Tennessee Volunteers play for a major men's national championship. You know this of knowing me for the last several years. I get the ultimate sports anxiety watching the Vols, whether it's football, basketball, and now baseball, as Tony Vitello has turned things around completely. I saw a tweet this morning, Sam. It was a how it started and where it is now. The where it is now picture was the graphic from ESPN of national championship series, Texas A&M versus Tennessee. The where it started picture was Tony Vitello on a 6-foot folding table with a Gatorade cooler and some pamphlets of paper on the table talking to fans on a sidewalk. That's where this program was 7 years ago when he took over. Nobody cared. You went to games because they gave away free food and maybe they gave away a hat or a t-shirt as a college student. I went to a couple games as a college student. I have no idea if I saw Tennessee win a baseball game or lose a baseball game when I was in school. This is a big deal here. And so I think, and look, Chris, I was about to bring up Chris's comment. Kind of funny. There are baseball fans in Tennessee now. Look, baseball has been a big deal in the state for a long time. People either grew up Braves, Reds, or Cardinals fans. High school baseball has been good here for a while. Yes, college baseball has not been on the forefront, but it shows you how much weight the Tennessee Vols carry in this state, that they get good at a sport that was not a major televised sport. And now all of a sudden the state is buzzing about college baseball because, look, Vanderbilt doesn't move the needle. We all know that. I think Tim Corbin's phenomenal, and that baseball program is so impressive. But the fact that Tennessee Volunteers have a chance to win a national championship this weekend is insane. I'm like pinching myself. Yeah, this is real because I was 8 years old when I saw Peerless Price beat Florida State and do the tomahawk chop and cut them off right there. That was awesome. I remember that. It's been a long time. I'm 34 now. It's been a long time. Here we go. Go Vols.
Yeah, I mean, I do love to hate on the Vols. That's no secret. I do enjoy their misery. But I kind of enjoy a little bit of the opposite of what Chris said. Yeah, it is funny. There are baseball fans in Tennessee now, and I've dealt with it. Chris, I've dealt with it. Listen, I came down here. I'm a baseball guy. I love baseball. I watch baseball every day. I sit down, watch baseball.
Crazy.
Get made fun of for sitting down and watching hours of baseball every day. And as much as I'd like to be like, oh, now everybody wants to care about baseball, I'm in the business of welcoming people who want to become baseball fans because I think this is the kind of thing that it takes is a Tennessee or your local professional team or whatever it is being awesome and being fun that shows people baseball is freaking fun. Like when you have a team that can have fun and you get to big important games late in the year, whether it's the College World Series or the Major League Baseball playoffs, like baseball rocks. And so I am all for this. I think this is actually, for me, surprisingly, good news for me as well, because I like the fact that people like you, Austin, and people like, everybody else in the Nashville sports scene right now is talking about baseball. That is cool to me. So yeah, I do appreciate this and welcome aboard. Maybe it starts with the Vols and then it ends with, a little bit more MLB love, and maybe Nashville's getting a team here in the near future at some point.
You're all
so
about
get used to it now.
Denise says, what's the schedule for baseball? So game 1, Saturday night, tomorrow night, 6:30 Central. Game 2, Sunday afternoon at 1 Central, I believe. And an, if necessary, game 3, Monday night. So that is that. So some other Tyler comes back. The A&M fan says, heck yeah, Austin, it's going to be a great series. It really is. Hey, look, SEC has been, and this is the other thing. The last 4 College World Series final series, the SEC has had both teams in 3 of the last 4. And the one time they didn't have both, it was Ole Miss and Oklahoma, who will be in the SEC in a mere 10 days.
There you go.
All right, Jake, good news. Going to be at the Live Nashville tournament on Father's Day present. I have tickets for Saturday. It's going to be like 98 degrees.
Let me know how that is.
Okay.
Let me know how that is. I thought about like, Live, interesting, but I've never been to a live golf event before. Like,
I have. Golf tournaments can be really fun.
Like, I feel like they could be, but I could also not have fun. And I don't know. It
could either be really, really fun or super hot and miserable and sunburned everywhere and thirsty and hungry.
It depends. Sometimes, like, I've seen like a racing event. I've been to racing events before where I was like, that was awesome. And then I've been to racing events before where I've been like, I didn't really see much of the race. And I don't know how it works with golf, but I feel like I'd kind of be like, I didn't really get to watch anybody play golf. The view's much better from my living room with the tournament on TV. So
how about this, Brandon? Some good news. My wife was featured on NPR and WUSA 9 for returning a Mayan urn she found in a thrift shop to the Mexican embassy. Holy, like what? That is a story.
All right. Hey, great news. Shout out to Brandon's wife. NPR. That's all
wild. Right. Chef Rain, good news. Finally locked down a baby name for her son, Shiloh. That's a cool name. Shiloh. Did you read the book, Shiloh?
No, I was trying to remember where I've heard of the name Shiloh, though. Like, I feel like I've heard of a Shiloh before. I just don't know where.
That is a book that will make you cry. Just a spoiler alert. Let's see. Stephen King, good news. Birds in the backyard flew the nest out, living in the world. That's great. Yeah, always fun to see the wilderness have procreation and then how that process moves on. So, Sam, what's your good news?
Shiloh Sanders. That's what it is. Thank you, Pistol Ramsey.
Not the actual Shiloh book that's pretty famous.
No, I just, that's what it was. So I just knew it was top of mind for some reason in sports. Thank you. My good news. Fiance's birthday weekend this weekend. So got a little bit of birthday celebrations. Little birthday dinner. Gonna be a good time. So that is my good news. Love a good birthday weekend. Love any reason to celebrate. So
there you go. Well, happy birthday. Hope you guys have a good weekend experience, and it's going to be really hot, man. I'm just looking at the temperatures for that golf tournament on Saturday, and I'm just like, man.
Sounds like a tanning day. Sounds like a day to lay by the pool.
Yeah, and not walk around for an 18-hole course. We'll find out how that goes. I'll let you know.
Oh, that's also my good news. I've been trying to get good at golf, and it's going okay.
Well, it takes time.
Yeah, I've been trying to get good, and I'm okay.
So takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. I tell you what,
is only one step from good.
You would get better at golf if you took some of your time spent watching baseball and turned it into golf.
Well, the White Sox are like 20 and 85, so I actually have been. Like the time that I would normally be watching, normally over the summer, I'd be like, 5 o'clock golf round. That's gonna run into like the 5th inning. I'm not gonna be able to do that. And I have not been doing that. I've been like, I don't care to watch the White Sox tonight, so I will go play golf. And it's been helping. I've been playing a good amount.
All right.
Well,
good week of shows, like we mentioned. Let's have a good weekend. Hope everybody does have a safe weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday morning. So appreciate it as always. Make sure you hit that like button before you go on Facebook and on YouTube. Like the show, please. Goes a long way for us, and we'll catch you guys next week. Appreciate it as always.